Waste, pollution, unsustainable. That is what I think of when I see places and images such as these. Fact, our species has created many of the environmental issues that we are experiencing today. And when examining what we know and seeing what we are experiencing, do you really think that the automobile and bicycle industry are going green to preserve our planet? Well, with their continued efforts of adding to the problem, I'm not sure. Invested in my education and willingness to gain experience and dedication to developing skills. This is the journey behind the Cruiser Racer electric bike brain. Greetings enthusiasts and welcome back to the channel. This year and moving forward, Cruiser Racer is focused on building sustainably because renewable energy is supposed to be sustainable. There are many industries operating under the cloak of sustainability, such as the electric automobile, electric bike, and cycling industries. But are these industries really sustainable? Perhaps the end product can offer an aspect of sustainable living, but the process and production of these products are hardly sustainable. Not to mention the disposal of these products, which usually adds to pollution and waste. As consumers, we are mostly unaware of the amount of waste that comes from the cycling industry, but bike mechanics worldwide know all too well how bike makers are just as responsible for the amount of waste and pollution as all other major sectors. Recently, Vice News did an expose on the waste issue within the cycling industry. They interviewed a handful of bike mechanics from co-ops around the nation. Interviewed was Mac Lyman, a bike mechanic for 18 years, and she's seen her fair share of crappy bikes. As the program director for Bikes Together in Denver, Mac and her associates have seen bikes that have been hastily wrenched together out of flat packed boxes by people with minimal training. In the bike industry, these are known to mechanics as bike-shaped objects. What's a bike-shaped object? A bike-shaped object is a bike with misaligned wheels, forks on backwards, faulty handlebars, bikes that break after a few dozen hours of use and that cannot be repaired. Mac has also expressed how they feel the crappy bike problem has gotten increasingly worse over the last 10 years. Well, within the industry, mechanics are growing tired of this evolving trend. And that's why Bikes Together and other co-op communities have come together and started a petition calling on bike manufacturers and other major retailers to stop producing and selling bikes that fall apart after a few months of use. I too am with these mechanics when they say that they are dissatisfied, telling distraught customers and riders that their bikes are built too cheap to fix. Vice also interviewed Josh Bisher, the executive director and co-founder of Mechanical Gardens Bike Co-op in Brooklyn. Josh says that the problem with budget bikes is everything. They're literally built to fail. The petition is also calling for a creation of a minimum durability standard of 500 ride hours. They ultimately want to see manufacturers designing bikes that are made to be serviceable and stop selling and creating bikes that are made to fall apart. There's also talk of mechanics just refusing to work on cheap bikes. Crappy bikes can be found at any major brick and mortar or online retailer that sells bikes for less than $200. Don't get me wrong, there are a decent amount of repairable bikes that can be found for less than $500, but new bicycles sold for less than $200 are most certainly up for questioning. Josh Bisher goes into further detail on the problem with budget bikes. Bisher goes on to say that budget bikes violate 3 central principles for what makes bikes great. Can't be adjusted, can't be overhauled, and can't have parts replaced whenever something isn't working. The second problem Bisher sees is that bikes, especially in urban areas, are a key tool in the fight against climate change and a more sustainable future, but everything about budget bikes is wasteful. McLyman also feels that we need to stop mining these materials out of the ground, shipping them around the globe, just to have them poorly constructed, sold in a big box store, and thrown in a landfill a few months later. From working within the cycling industry, I've seen firsthand the amount of waste that is created from bikes. Second-use co-ops and stores such as Second Cycle receive upward towards 1,000+ bike donations per year. And of thousands of bikes, only maybe 50 of them can be used. The rest of these bikes end up in landfills or bicycle graveyards. And that is where this brand, Cruiser Racer, draws the line. It is my top priority to create products that last 10 years or more. And when those products die, Cruiser Racer will provide programs to help our customers with recycling to prevent landfill waste. Again, because electric technology is supposed to be sustainable. In conclusion, I really want to drive home the fact that cheap bikes are exactly that, cheap. And with cheap, you get what you pay for. E-bikes that range in price from $500 to $700 are cheap. You will experience many issues with these bikes, and they may only last you 2 to 3 years before you have to replace your bike entirely. In the end, cheap bikes will cost you more in maintenance and repair, outweighing the amount of the original cost. And you can avoid this if you just remember, you get what you pay for. Hey, you! Oh, me? Yes, you! Do you enjoy the content on this channel? Would you like to help us grow? Well, finger the like button and subscribe to this channel. The YouTube algorithm likes to reward these types of behaviors, so don't hold back. Thanks for your support. Now, back to the show. with recycled material is my top priority. However, just because a bike canvas or a bike frame is cheap or maybe even free doesn't make it an e-bike worthy build. So, in this segment, I want to explore bike frames that I would personally deem e-bike worthy conversions. There are two types of frames that I use to create the Cruiser Racer models. When looking for a frame to build upon, I lean toward the mountain bike and beach cruiser frames. So, if you're looking to build a custom style cafe racer or cruiser, or maybe a standard bike conversion, this is information that will personally benefit you. But as I said in the previous segment, these are bicycle shaped objects. Anything classified as such is not a real bicycle. Here I've got 4 canvases, and of the 4, 3 are not quite bikes yet. Now, I've explained this already in theory in the previous segment. For now, let's focus on this lesson. Of these 4 frames, only 2 are perfect or suitable for a conversion kit. The others will either not be suitable or will require extra steps and extra cost to convert. The 4 bikes that I'm comparing, 2 mountain bikes, a steel frame and an aluminum frame, and 2 beach cruisers, a single speed and a multi-speed. When choosing a frame, I'm looking for a space to mount components on the front triangle. I need bottle cage rib nuts or space to install rib nuts. Next, I'm looking at the dropout spaces. The wheel axle and the hub motor is double the size of a standard wheel hub. In most cases, you will have to either be ready to replace the fork or file the dropouts. Something else that I look for, but is not necessary for all builds, I look for a place to mount a control box or a glove box for the controller and some tools. Lastly, this is most important. I look for an e-bike worthy braking system. There are 2 types of brakes that I feel are efficient for e-bike builds. The best brake systems are disc brakes because they're grabby and work very well. The brake surface is at least a foot off the ground and the pads are tough and durable. The second best system are the type of brakes I love to hate, but work extremely well for a rim brake: cantilevers. For a rim brake, these brakes grab just as well as a disc brake. The only reason anyone would pass over cantilevers to a V-brake is canties are hard to set up, but when you set them up properly, they work very, very well. This mountain bike frame is aluminum. The aluminum frame is durable, but not as durable as steel. Aluminum is stiff and unbendable. It will not handle dents nor stress as well as steel could. When using a beefy motor such as a 1000 or 1500 watt, an aluminum frame is out of the question. This mountain bike frame is steel. It's very strong and durable for all the weight that the conversion kit, as well as the weight of the rider, will add to it. Cruiser frames are generally made of steel, which make them ideal for conversion. But there are key factors that will easily disqualify a cruiser frame. Number 1, single speed cruisers. These cruisers have coaster brakes only. That leaves no chance of mounting any other types of brakes that will safely stop the bike. Other common brake styles for cruisers are side pull or center pull calipers, aka U-brakes. From my experience, I can tell you these are terrible brakes for a cruiser, let alone an electric cruiser. Simply not durable enough to handle the stopping power. A cruiser with multi-speed capability will serve your conversion much better. Multi-speed cruisers will either come with V-brakes or cantilever brakes. To achieve a disc brake system on your cruiser, just change the front fork to one with external mounts. The front brakes can be converted. However, the rear brakes can only either be cantilever or V-brakes. Unfortunately, most cruiser frames do not have mounts for disc brakes. These are the things that I look for when choosing a canvas for my projects. Of course, there are other factors depending on the build and the frame, but this is a good start. So, build wisely. Today's sponsor is Cruiser Racer. Cruiser Racer is more than just a channel on YouTube. It is an entire platform based on electric bike building and enthusiasm. The first way you can help support this channel is by liking this video and subscribing. And if you'd like to go a little further, check out our store on Teesprings. In the store, you'll find authentic eye-popping designs from the Cruiser Racer and Electron Rebels line. This is a great way to support this channel and help us grow. So head on over to the store and check out our designs today. Now back to the show. From my experience in the cycling industry, I understand that there are only a handful of brands that dominate the parts arena. Now, for most cyclists out there, we all know Shimano. There's also Suntour and SRAM. For all of the brands that make parts for the cycling industry, Shimano is the one that is most known and widely used. With working in a bike shop, there are perks to bicycle education, and as a mechanic, I've gained access to education through industry manufacturers. Through Spark Industry, insiders get training on parts, service, and installation courses through brands such as Cannondale, Electra GT, Trek, Yakima, Santa Cruz, just to name a few. For the last 2 months, I worked on the Shimano T.E.C courses, and my focus has been on hydraulic disc brake systems, drivetrain, steps, e-bike systems, Di2, which is Shimano's digital drivetrain system, and Shimano hub and wheel technology. Now, this was a pretty big course, and the website was really hard to structure an education plan around. So I decided to focus on the parts that I plan to use for Cruiser Racer builds. My education plan allowed for 8 weeks of Shimano training. Then I'll begin on lithium battery education. Now, I'm sharing this because I want to make the purpose of this content clear, that this is an inside look at my journey building an electric bike brand. I believe that if you want to invest or do business in a certain field, that you should know everything there is to know about that business or investment. Besides that, free education is everywhere. My education goal with Shimano was to learn about their parts and e-bike technology, and I've got one more certificate that's on the way. But as you can see, in the last 2 months, I've learned a lot about Shimano. Recently, cut 3, 2, 1, go. Recently, Vice News did an expose. Cut 3, 2, 1, go. Recently, Vice News did an expose on the waste issue within the cycling industry. And they cut 3, 2, 1, go. Recently, Vice News did an expose on a handful of cut 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, go. Recently, Vice News did an expose on the waste issue within the cycling industry. They interviewed a handful of bike mechanics from co-ops around the nation. Cut.